Welcome back to Broncos Country Tonight. A significant injury on the defensive line. Jurrell Casey is going to be out for the year with a torn biceps. Benjamin, let's talk about what's next for the defensive line, because this impacts the run game. It impacts the pass rush up the middle. And it's also on the heels of just last week finding about Draymond Jones and DeMarcus Walker. So your depth was already tested, and now you lose a starter. What's next for this group?
Well, it's going to be next man up. Deshaun Williams, Deion Sizer, those guys going to get some looks. We finally get to see some more, I think, out of McTelvin Agim. That's something I've been wanting to see since training camp, when every offensive lineman singled him out as the toughest guy that they had to go up against in one-on-one. So it's a big blow, because Jurrell Casey is an on-field and off-field leader, an energizer, and an all-pro caliber player. But in the end, it's the NFL. You got to come next man up. And we saw Deshaun Williams come in. He got a pass deflection off of Tom Brady. It's nice to see those guys are able to produce coming up in relief. So I'm curious to see what some of this depth can do. I'm cautiously optimistic about some of these guys. Vic has a good track record with finding defensive linemen. So I hope that they come through and are the impact players we hope they can be.
Yeah, the Broncos right now are 8th in rushing, giving up just about 102 rushing yards per game. Very impressive, and that's what we expected them to be. When we were watching in training camp, we were tweeting out, we were talking about a ton. Just so this defensive line, the interior of this defensive line is going to be very tough to run against. The problem I have for this is you have some young guys in the secondary that are accustomed to that defensive line doing their job. And so if all of a sudden the run for the opponent starts to get on track, that's going to obviously impact the pass. And we saw that at times even last year when teams started to gash them in the run, they basically could open up anything. So for me, that becomes priority number one, because there's very few things right now for the Broncos they could absolutely hang their hat on, and one of them is their run defense. I don't want to see that fall off. Do you think Deshaun Williams, McTelvin Agim, do you think that group can get it done?
I think they can, and they're not up against the most talented running backs in the world against the Jets. Le'Veon Bell is out, obviously, on the IR, so you're looking at guys like Kalen Ballage, and you should be able to stop that. You don't want to sit here and count on we can stop him, but you should be able to stop him, especially when you look at the caliber of running backs they've been up against in recent weeks. Guys like Derrick Henry, Connor and Snell, and then last week, of course, you had Fournette, Rojo, and that group. So it's in LaShawn McCoy. So it really is. It really is theoretically on paper an easier task, but you don't want to rest on your heels on that. You still got to bring it.
Well, and again, that's just this week. Next week against the Patriots, we just saw what they did against the Raiders. I mean, they basically said, we're going to run right at you, and the Raiders had no answer.
And you got a mobile quarterback involved there. Right. You got a big-time mobile quarterback in Cam Newton, so that's going to be one of those ones. It's kind of interesting because the next couple of weeks, it kind of feels like maybe the John Elway revenge tour. You got Adam Gase and that onside kick from a couple of years ago. You got the Josh McDaniels thing coming up the week after that. I'm kind of interested to see if these Broncos maybe win one for the Gipper on those.
Well, and there's some interesting personality things going on. You and I had a conversation with Deshaun Williams that we're going to air on our show, Broncos Country Tonight, the radio show. And he sort of talked about his path to getting here, and it's similar to some of these other guys that are now thrust into these opportunities. Brett Rippon included in that is guys that have. Brett Rippon hasn't bounced around, but he was an undrafted player. At one point, he was probably told he wasn't going to be able to make it in this league. Deshaun Williams has bounced around for 5+ years from different cities. He's been with the Broncos like 3 times. So you do wonder if some of the personality and that edge of nobody believes in us can galvanize a little bit during this time when you're losing all of these ones.
I think so. I think you have to kind of tap into that too, because you've got that underdog, nobody believed in me mentality as a macro view on your career, and then in a micro sense in this game, look at us. We're 0-3. Nobody's believing in us now. Look all the injuries we've got, and maybe you can carry some of that forward. Guys like Purcell who bounced around. We just talked about Deshaun Williams, Devontae Bosby, who was another one that bounced around. Alexander Johnson was out of football for a couple of years. And we can go on and on. Look at Deontay Spencer go up there in the CFL.
Right.
There's tons of names. We can look at this and we can say, hey, maybe these guys can tap into that. Hey, I've been an underdog my whole life. This is my chance to shine. And I know it's the Jets, but still, you come out and put a W on the board. All of a sudden, you're 1-3. Now you're looking at trying to put some positive momentum into things, and you got a week and a half off. Maybe you get rested, and you get to catch the Patriots napping, and who knows from there? Because then you get the Dolphins after that.
Well, and that's kind of the point here is I'm not going to try to make the argument argument that the talent of the starters for the Broncos is similar to what their backups is, and especially as you take on other teams that still have their ones out there. But there is an edge, and every player, when they can kind of tap into that edge, it can be very helpful. The undrafted players talk about that all the time. All the people that told them that they couldn't be in this league. I remember Chris Harris would very famously talk about that. C.J. Anderson's another guy. So I don't know how far that carries them, but you can win games doing that. In regular season moments, when you catch other teams maybe thinking, oh, this team is super banged up. You remember when the Giants came into town a few years ago on a Monday Night Football game, and everybody thought the Giants they were missing their top 3 wide receivers.
Really? Yeah.
And they were missing their top running back. They came in with Orleans Darkwa and then just ran it up on the Broncos. There's no reason why the Broncos can't do the same.
Well, yeah, you don't want to catch it. I mean, you want to catch a team napping. You don't want to be the team caught napping, as the Broncos were in that case. But there's no reason they can't go out there and win. I mean, the margin between it's not, you're not having Hall of Famer Von Miller out there, rushing the passer, but these other guys are great athletes. Or even just because they're backups doesn't mean they're not great athletes and great football players. And so it'd be a fun story to see the Denver Broncos overcome all the doubt and be able to pull some things off.
Back to the defensive line really quick. I've been concerned about the pressure. They have not been able to get as much pressure on opposing quarterbacks. How big a hit is this without Jurrell Casey?
Well, that does present a problem because he is so great at doing that. But, I think you're hoping that next guy up. You're hoping that these guys are able to do those kinds of things. Maybe get McTelvin a little bit more involved. Maybe kick him out to the side instead of just using him as a nose. Try and find these guys that can get after the quarterback. Shelby Harris needs to be in every down. It's a guy that's just too good to be taken off on third downs. And so I think if you can get some production out of those guys, maybe you get it done.
Shelby's been nothing short of spectacular during the course of this season.